Good morning, you're watching Addis News Hour. I'm Zawatu Desaling and thank you for joining us and do stay tuned. The federal police said they have caught an individual and 25 of his companions red-handed involved in money laundering in a statement they issued last evening. Police said the individual named Samuel Iguel, aka Sammy Dollar, was apprehended while illegally transferring a sum of 5.1 billion birr with his companions. Police disclosed that the individual in their custody was involved in money laundering using his license of importing office and house furniture, as well as electronic equipment, as a cover. He and his sister Yodit Agwale used 25 bank accounts for the money laundering, police said, adding the two are under investigation. Police thanked the general public for providing them with tip-offs, urging them to continue exposing criminals. The Council of Ministers approved 3 draft regulations during its 14th regular session on Wednesday. The Council discussed on 3 draft regulations of establishing the Ethiopian Agricultural Research Institute and Social Security Agency in government and private sectors employees, as well as regulating powers and responsibilities of the Ethiopian Construction Authority. Firstly, the Council discussed on the proposed draft regulation and establish the Ethiopian Agricultural Research Institute. Secondly, the Council discussed the proposed draft regulation to determine the power, responsibilities, and structure of the Ethiopian Construction Authority. The regulation aims to ensure the construction industry corresponds with the contemporary technologies. Finally, the Council discussed on the proposed draft regulations to establish Social Security Agency and for government and private sector employees. After extensive discussion, the Council approved all 3 of the proposed drafts, effective from the day they are published on Negarit newspaper with necessary additional inputs. Members of the National Defense Forces reaffirmed their commitment to uphold the unity and sovereignty of Ethiopia while standing by the nation in its development endeavor. While marking the annual Defense Day, the members pointed out that honoring the Defense Forces helps the nation reinvigorate itself against all threats to its unity. Kasaun Jani has the details.
Ethiopia is marking the National Defense Day under the theme "The source of our energy is our people." The day comes exactly 2 years after the TPLF Barkstad members of the Federal Army camp stationed in Mekelle, prompting the federal government to send airstrips to the northernmost state. The TPLF launched this treasonous attack in the hope of disintegrating the National Army and aiding air smash to Addis Ababa to recapture federal power. The members reaffirmed their commitment to pay the ultimate price for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the country.
This day is memorable. Ethiopians from every corner of the country gather to honor Defense Force. We're rejoicing today because despite the sacrifice, we managed to keep up Ethiopia's territorial integrity.
Major Gamechu Bekele headed the logistics center with the Ethiopian Air Force. For his part, said the social gathering of Army Day is a section of Ethiopia's incredible history.
We're marking this day to honor the Defense Force, which remain the bulwark of our nation's sovereignty. Understanding the purpose of the festival is very important. We must commemorate the sacrifices made.
Defense Force Days used to be celebrated in February when the TPLF was dominating power in Ethiopia. The month of February is picked because the group relates its history. The Defense Day that we celebrated is selected on the basis of Ethiopian history. The Ethiopian Defense Force was established in the early 20th century during the reign of Emperor Menelik.
Seasoned politician condemned the UN and some other international entities of going the extra mile often beyond their mandate to put pressure on Ethiopia's sovereignty. Talking to ETV, Beyene Petros lauded the Ethiopian National Defense Forces for taking calculated measures against the belligerent TPLF. Avoiding collateral damage, and Goshu Meliso brings us up to speed.
Although Ethiopia had to defend itself against a terrorist TPLF which provoked the 2-year war, diplomatic pressure and media warfare continued to be unfair and unrealistic. Also, some international organizations, countries, and individuals are tarnishing the image of Ethiopia by disseminating propaganda and accusing the government of breaches in the name of humanitarian assistance. Talking to ETV, a seasoned politician, Beyene Petros said the UN and some other international entities have gone beyond their mandates to put pressure on Ethiopia's sovereignty.
The fact that the sovereign Ethiopian nation has a right to, handle and normalize situations, and this is its own prerogative. Other entities, including the UN, must only function within the, provisions of the charter that are, appropriate for the kind of situation which is in Ethiopia. So, okay, there is a conflict that is created by, a group which is supposed to be functioning within the constitution of the country, but they have been operating out of limits.
While the TPLF must take the blame for the lack of basic facilities in Tigray, the TPLF and its Western cronies have politicized the issue without bothering to take the reality on the ground into consideration.
Just for these hooligans, and these guys close all the borders, destroy resources, all that, and then come back and complain about lack of communication, lack of power, lack of access to whatever, telecommunication, media, whatever. Who is preventing that? Their action. How can this poor country simply make that accessible and see it to be destroyed? Okay, it's a situation where when there was a truce, for a limited period of time, even technical people went into there to put the electricity back to function. They were savagely murdered. Okay? What happened to the banks? They have been all looted. Now, it just does not make sense, So I really question.
The Ethiopian army is advancing in Tigray, most towns falling to it fast. Beyene said the Ethiopian National Defense Force is taking calculated measures, avoiding collateral damage.
What we've been saying very recently, the move as they went into Tigray, that the Ethiopian army has been making, is with extreme care and caution, not to fire into the cities, okay, to avoid collateral damage. My take of the kind of force the Ethiopian army has wouldn't take all this time if they were really randomly bombarding and trampling upon all resources and persons. It could have been even much shorter. But they seem to be moving in a rather very slow, careful, cautious.
Ethiopia first sent troops into Tigray in November 2020, hoping a quick victory over the northern region's belligerent leaders, the TPLF, after the latter attacked a federal army outpost in Mekelle.
በልጆችሽ መኖርን መርጣለሽ ሳንለይሽ ፍቅርሽ በልባችን የሚኖር ማንም አይለየን አንቺ ከሞት በቀር ያያት የቅድማ ያታላቅ ቅርስ ኮራዴ ጋሻቸው ሲታወስ በቀኝ ያልተገዛሽ መሬታችን ነፃነት ነው ክብራችን ጀግኔ ማንነታችን ወግና ዋሉ ያገራችን ያውዳ ዓመት የሰንበት ህብረታችን የክረምት የበጋ ባለጸጋ ኢትዮጵያ ኢትዮጵያ ለሚቷ ሸጋ ኢትዮጵያ ኢትዮጵያ ለሚቷ ሸጋ ኢትዮጵያ ኢትዮጵያ ለሚቷ
A political writer and analyst urged Western institutions, media and governments to refrain from unduly attempting to glorify the TPLF, saying that Ethiopia's sovereignty has been violated by Western forces. The analyst Lawrence Freeman went on to say that these forces want to help the TPLF recapture federal power or continue to disturb Ethiopia's peace. Tugusar Nisa has more from the Ethiopian News Agency. Take a look.
The West is supporting the TPLF with a view to gain leverage over Africa and escalate new colonialism. For this aim to come to fruition, the analyst said the TPLF must be supported even in its devilish intentions.
I think what's going on is that these oligarchical geopolitical forces, they want to keep the TPLF around. They don't want them eliminated. They don't want them assimilated into a Republic of Ethiopia, even though they probably cannot win militarily or ever resume complete power. But they can be relevant in making Ethiopia ungovernable. Now, if you look at Tedros, the chief of the WHO, WHO, you see that his statement really violates his position, and he should be considered resigning because he's clearly taken a very pro-Tigray TPLF position. Actually, not Tigray, but pro-TPLF position. And as a member of a major organization of the UN, this really is a violation because he's very blunt about it.
For Freeman, this is the extension of the long-term policy from forces in the West that do not want independent political leaders controlling African nations like the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Therefore, these forces have engaged in a constant destabilization of Ethiopia and try to make the country ungovernable.
Government has been making some significant military advances. Recently, it took has been able to take over the city of Sher. There are discussions, reports that it may be able to move into Mekelle, the capital of Tigray. And these are important military victories. At the same time, particularly over the last, I would say, 5 or 6 days, almost a week, various Western institutions, media, governments, etc., have come out again threatening Ethiopia if the government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed does not institute immediate ceasefire.
He argues that the West are responsible for the problem in Ethiopia, adding that if there had been full support for the government of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed from the very beginning, there would not have been this human suffering.
If the international community, and the West in particular, including Guterres, the UN General Secretary, and others, and Anthony Blinken, and President Biden, and the European Union, if they had supported the government, this would never have reached these conditions. The reason that Ethiopia is under attack is because of its potential in development and its leadership in economic development. So this is not hard to understand. However, what is hard to understand, and which I would hope my friends in leadership positions, Ethiopians, is you have to understand the long waves of history that go back thousands of years of the struggle between oligarchism and what we could either call humanism or republicanism. These battles continue today, and to ignore them as unimportant, to fail to comprehend them, puts you in a weakened position.
The analyst also noted that at this time, Ethiopia is under repeated attacks by the Western oligarchical forces due to the country's policy success and potential in development in Africa. The progress on the construction of Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD in the nation's independent industrial policy and manufacturing parks could be something that would be imitated by other African nations. These successes by the Prime Minister and the Prosperity Party have brought about discomfort to these oligarchical parties in the West, and now they are fueling chaos in Ethiopia, the American analyst said.
You're watching Addis News Hour, and as part of this segment, we're going to be talking about what's been trending, and as I'm joined by one of our staff members, Daniel Hassan. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning to you.
So, as part of, well, as I have to cut to the chase, as part of the related addressed issues, as we have already addressed on the news, I think there is more to address over what's been trending over the past 24 hours, even also linked towards an issue regarding Pan-Africanism. Is that right?
Right. Currently, Ethiopia is facing huge, unprecedented challenge in connection to the law enforcement operation which is happening in the northern part of the country. And that was first caused by the TPLF rebel groups. And it was interrupted three times, and the TPLF rebels reinstated it for 3 times. So this challenge requires concerted effort by the government, either through war or through negotiation. Currently, the third negotiation is happening, is happening in South Africa. Mm-hmm. 2 of them were happening in Seychelles and in Djibouti. Mm-hmm. In all these negotiation efforts, there were foreign powers who sit there and who interfere. In the last negotiation in Djibouti, the United States envoys requested for a ceasefire. Mm-hmm. Ceasefire cannot happen on a blue. Either you have to have a durable negotiation, otherwise you have to act accordingly. If they want to fight, the government has to enforce the law, and the government has to win the war which is happening there. It can be stopped by 2 means. You have to have durable negotiation, or else you have to use another means in order to stop this adverse situation in the northern part of Ethiopia. It is affecting the country a lot. This war, Ethiopia is not fighting only internally. It's also fighting with foreign forces, almost like a proxy war. There are some Western powers who are in support of the TPLF group. Mm-hmm. So Ethiopia is fighting within this continent and also fighting outside this continent. Through its embassies, through its foreign ministry, Ethiopia has made it clear the stances for all. It doesn't compromise with the sovereignty of Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. So the government stance is loud and clear. The government is for Ethiopia's unity and integrity, and the government is for economic growth and transformation. The foreign policy of Ethiopia is a win-win approach, non-interference approach. Mm-hmm. This is well maintained, and this is well advocated to the whole world. But still now, in the same negotiation in South Africa, Western powers are calling for ceasefire. Mm-hmm. How it happens? If you have a durable negotiation, it happens. Otherwise, you have to have another alternative in order to achieve the desired goal. So we have heard from Linda Thomas saying she's a special envoy in the United Nations, and she called for immediate cessation of hostilities and hinder delivery of humanitarian assistance, and also Eritrean withdrawal from the northern Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. All are internal affairs of this country. Mm-hmm. It can be determined by Ethiopians. Their order or their interference, it may aggravate the situation. It doesn't help. It's better for all sides to compromise and to have a good deal in order to solve the situation, or else the government follows its own way.
Yeah.
And also the people of Ethiopia are also made it loud and clear in last time in their rallies that they don't accept any interference from outside in Ethiopian affairs. This is a country of Pan-Africanism. This is a country of Pan-Africanism, and the leaders of this country are Pan-Africanists. So they don't give way for foreign interventions, as Ethiopians previously done it during the colonial time. They don't submit for colonization. They don't submit for foreign interferences. This is already being told from the government side, being told to the outsiders from the people of the country. So for foreign powers, if they are really in a position to help Ethiopia solve its problem, they shouldn't take side. They have taken side. It's clear they have taken side with the TPLF. It doesn't help, it doesn't work, it doesn't help this country. So the government knows what is expected from it. So things are going well now, and hopefully the war situation in the northern part of Ethiopia will be solved in the near future.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for giving us the nutshell of what's been trending so far.
Thank you.
Ethiopian ambassador to India appreciated the East Asian nation's principled and undying support to Ethiopia in a more sustainable manner. India, the ambassador Tizita Mulugeta said India has effectively used all kinds of international forums, including the UN. Goya Hinsani has the rest of the story. Take a look.
India has shown support to Ethiopia in more sustainable manner in different kind of international fora, including in the UN and Human Rights Council, the ambassador said. Since as India is a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council, it has given Ethiopia continuous support in UN Security Council and UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, she stated.
India has really showed its principled support to Ethiopia in a more sustainable manner in different kind of international forum, including in the UN, in the UN Human Rights Council, and different kind of international organization. So this shows that there is very robust and strong and friendly relationship between these two countries. So as much as possible, we also want to strengthen this relation in a more strong and strategic manner, which one of them is to strengthen the defense cooperation between these two countries.
Ethiopia has expressed commitment to strengthen the relationship between the two countries, especially in terms of cooperation and bilateral ties, as the further said.
India is a very big and vast country that has a lot of diversities in terms of population, in terms of economy, in terms of culture, and so on. So here we are doing all our best to promote Ethiopia. There are also a lot of Indian investors in Ethiopia, more than 600 Indian investors in Ethiopia. Even during the COVID time, when the world was, recessing and cooling, we did receive more than 30 Indian investors. So this really shows that Indians are more resilient, and also they have a confidence in Ethiopian economy. So they are in different part of the economy, in agriculture, in different kind of industry, textile, food processing, many kind of sectors. So still we are working in developing that, especially in terms of tourism and ICT. For that, we are working with several institution in Ethiopia, especially with the tourism minister and Ethiopian Investment Commission.
Speaking on economic cooperation between Ethiopia and India, Ambassador Tizita indicates that the economic relationship between two countries, particularly trade and investment, have been growing from both sides. Many Indian investors are coming to Ethiopia and are engaged in different sectors. More than 600 Indian investors are in Ethiopia now.
ደህና መጣችሁ ማጎ ብሔራዊ ፓርክ በጣም በተፈጥሮ ጸጋ ውብ የሆነችና በተራሮች የተከበበች መሃላ እንዲሁም ታንዛኒያ ግሮንጎሮ የምትባል የኢኮሎጂ ጥበቃ ቦታን የምትመስል ነው መሃላ ይሄ ውስጥ በዚህ ብሔራዊ ፓርክ ውስጥ እንግዲህ በኢትዮጵያ ካሉት አንጋፋ የተባለ ከፍተኛ ገቢ የሚሰበስብ እስከ 2.4 ሚሊዮን በአመት ገቢ የሚሰበስብ የቱሪስት መስህብ ዙሪያው በባህላዊ የታጀበ ማህበረሰብን ያቀፈ ነው።
ሰባንዳ አካባቢ ወደ 81 አካባቢ አጥቢ የዱር እንስሳት ዝርያዎች ነበሩ። ከነዛ ውስጥ ትላልቅ አጥቢ የዱር እንስሳት የሚባሉት ጎሽ፣ ዝሆን፣ ዲፋርሳ ሌላ እነዚህ ስጋበል የሆኑት አንበሳ፣ ነብር የመሳሰሉት አሉ። አሁን ላይ ከነዚህ ውስጥ የተወሰነ የዱር እንስሳት ዝርያዎች በተለያየ ምክንያት በዚህ ብሔራዊ ፓርክ ጠፍተዋል።
Ethiopia has been making progresses in wheat production and other development areas. The nation will thus export wheat to foreign markets this year. That is according to an economist who talked to ETV and expressed hopes that this development will help in ensuring food security. Jonas Fontaun has the details.
Ethiopia's ambition to become a middle-income economy and deliver shared and sustained prosperity is driven by the government's 10-year perspective development plan, which supplements the existing vision for a homegrown economic reform agenda. Ethiopia is gearing to become self-sufficient in wheat within a short period and will even able to export it by 2023. The country does not depend on wheat supplies from Russia and Ukraine, but rather buys it from different countries through auctions. Ethiopia has a plan to achieve self-sufficiency in terms of food supplies and has recorded great success in wheat production in 2022, as about 2.6 million tons of wheat were produced using the irrigation system in the dry season.
Ethiopia is showing its potentials, coming to a realization and creating influences not only to neighboring countries but all over the world. Rest assured, once we made sure that we can export to neighboring countries, requests will come from Europe, Middle East and the rest of the world. Because wheat is becoming a very precious commodity for various reasons, and Ethiopia is a country which has huge potential to do so. So if you work hard, why not actually making wheat one of the major foreign exchange earning commodity for the country.
It was back in September that Ethiopia finally opened its doors for foreign bankers. Reflecting on this, the economist said the opening of banking industry for foreign investors will strengthen linkage of Ethiopia's economy with the rest of the world, as well as brings new technologies and know-how into the industry.
Had it been about 18 years ago when we had a debate whether foreign banks have to come to the country or not, at that time I was arguing no, it was not the time to bring in foreign banks, because our private banks, other than the Central Bank of Ethiopia, Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, were still at the infant stage, and they were not actually getting good pick in terms of how to do business in the finance industry. And secondly, our private sector was also not that much aligned in terms of how to use the banking system for further investment and sustainable change-bringing, undertakings in this country. I'm sure we have had a good time, both for the banks and for the private sector, to learn and bring their competence in the area. And I think it is timely for us to have foreign banks coming in, and also our bankers to become competitive enough so that they can make a difference by providing different products, financial products for investors, as well as actually going to the grassroots level and really harnessing what should be harnessed from the majority of difference-making farmers of the country.
The opening of the banking industry for foreign investors is also expected to improve the forex shortage in Ethiopia and access to finance, according to The Economist.
Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Ethiopian Airlines Group, Girma Waqi, said Africa's biggest airliner will continue to strengthen its international competitiveness and be the source of African pride by using modern aviation technologies. Talking to the Ethiopian news agency, Waqi also stated that the airline is fulfilling its important role in the economy by earning foreign currency for the country, noting it has flown the flag of Ethiopia for more than 70 years and has become the national symbol and pride of Africa. Take a look.
The airliner is successfully implementing its plan to double its growth every 5 years. The institution is known in the world aviation sector for using state-of-art technology and introducing newer airplanes. The airliner will continue to maintain its worthy competitiveness in the world and its pride in Africa.
Meanwhile, Waqi also added that apart from using new technologies, the airline is focusing on producing experts who work on the basis of qualified technology in the field. He also noted that the airline has earned over $5 billion during the just ended Ethiopian fiscal year of 2021/2022. Take a look.
Technologies are game changers for one's country's developmental endeavors in many ways. Cognizant of the fact that the airliner will train manpower to use modern technology for self-repair and engineering for the desired purpose, focusing especially on the use. The member of Star Alliance is playing a key role in the country's economy by expanding its international destination and markets. For instance, Ethiopia contributes greatly to the level of development the country has reached now. Particularly, its greater share in earning foreign currency is exemplary.
You're watching Addis News Hour, and now let's take a recap of the top stories once again. UN and some